Hi, I'm Mark Ellison from 5 Daily Trivia Questions, and I've got some wickedly bad news for you. This week is Villains Week, where we'll be celebrating the most memorable antagonists from pop culture. Every day we'll focus on a different set of iconic villains, from James Bond's greatest foes to Star Wars' Dark Side, Disney's animated antagonists, Batman's rogues gallery, and horror's most terrifying monsters. I've got a villain question for you right now. Which James Bond villain had steel teeth and appeared in 2 films, The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker? Was it Odd Job, Jaws, or Blofeld? If you knew it was Jaws, then you're going to love what we have in store. And if you didn't know, well, there's no better time to learn about these unforgettable characters. Join us for Villains Week on 5 Daily Trivia Questions. Subscribe for free right now, wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, sometimes it's good to be bad.
This weekend, only at Macy's, it's our lowest prices of spring. How low? Diamond rings, pendants, and earrings, only $399, originally $1,500. Ninja blenders, now $89.99. And $395 men's designer suits, only $99.99. So if you're wondering why you should shop Macy's lowest prices sale, well, the name pretty much says it all. It's our lowest prices for one weekend only. Starts tomorrow at Macy's. Savings off already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
Calaroga Shark Media.
From Washington, D.C., where winter is coming, this is Ballot.
That's right, dire wolves are back, but my retirement fund is not. Let's hit this. I'm Patrick Gutfield, and boy do I have a story for you that makes less sense than a penguin in a sauna. President Trump is either crashing the stock market on purpose, or he isn't, depending on which minute of the day you ask him. That's right. Our commander-in-chief reposted a video on Truth Social titled, "Trump is purposefully crashing the market," without any comment. Then hours later, he called the very notion so stupid and said, "I don't want anything to go down." This is like watching someone set fire to their own house while telling the neighbors, "What? No, I love this place." Sometimes you just need to burn down the living room to really appreciate the kitchen. Some economists are floating the theory that Trump is engineering what they call a J-curve, a short-term economic slowdown designed to force the Federal Reserve to slash interest rates. You know, like how I sometimes pretend to be sick on Monday mornings so my producer will let me use the emergency episode. Except in this case, pretending to be sick means tanking the entire global economy. Kevin Hassett, the White House National Economic Council director, insisted on ABC that he's not trying to tank the market. He's trying to deliver for American workers. Right, in the same way that the captain of the Titanic was just trying to deliver ice for everyone's drinks. You know what they say about rats and sinking ships? Well, the SS Trump tariff is taking on water, and some of the biggest rodents in business are suddenly remembering they have swimming lessons. Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, who in January told everyone to get over the tariffs because they were a valuable economic weapon, is now writing shareholder letters warning that these same tariffs will likely increase inflation and cause a greater probability of a recession. That's quite the flip-flop. I haven't seen someone change positions that fast since, well, Ted Cruz on literally any issue involving Trump. Speaking of Ted Cruz, despite calling himself Trump's strongest supporter in the Senate, the Texas senator is now warning these tariffs carry enormous risk. Apparently, Cruz just discovered that a tariff is a tax, and it is a tax principally on American consumers. Wow! Did he figure that out all by himself? Or did he have to ask his economic advisor, Captain Obvious? Bill Ackman, the billionaire who jumped on the Trump train after the July assassination attempt, is now comparing these tariffs to launching an economic nuclear war. He even tweeted, and I quote, "This is not what we voted for." Really, Bill? You voted for Donald Trump and you're surprised he's doing exactly what he promised to do for 8 years? That's like ordering a steak at a steakhouse and being shocked when they bring you meat. The stock market has been in freefall, with 2 successive days of more than 1,500-point declines. But don't worry, 51 Republican senators just voted for a budget framework to start drafting Trump's big, beautiful bill to cut taxes. Because when your house is burning down, the best solution is obviously to add more kindling. Just remember, this is only day 70 of his presidency. We still have 3 years and 295 days to go. But who's counting? Oh, right, the stock market. Straight down. Ladies and gentlemen, we have breaking news from Washington, D.C., where President Trump is planning to celebrate his 79th birthday with a military parade. Because nothing says, I'm not insecure about aging, like having tanks roll through the Capitol in your honor. The parade is scheduled for June 14th and will stretch almost 4 miles from the Pentagon to the White House. 4 miles! That's the exact distance between Trump's ego and reality. Now, technically, this parade is also meant to celebrate the Army's 250th anniversary, but let's be honest, when has Trump ever let someone else share the spotlight? I'm surprised he didn't ask them to change their founding date to match his birthday. You might remember that Trump tried this same stunt back in 2018 after he watched France's Bastille Day parade. He reportedly told French President Emmanuel Macron, "We're going to have to try to top it, because international relations is just one big game of my military is bigger than yours." That parade was eventually canceled when the price tag hit $92 million. $92 million. For that kind of money, you could buy 13,000 sets of White House silverware for the First Lady to never use. Washington officials are concerned that heavy military equipment would damage the city's roads, but I'm sure Trump will just tell them what he tells everyone else. The roads were already broken when I got here. So mark your calendars for June 14th, when Washington, D.C. will look less like the capital of a democracy and more like Red Square circa 1955. I'll be watching from my bunker.
Want this podcast without interruptions? Caliroga Plus delivers this show and over 20 premium shows completely ad-free, right to your favorite podcast player. We've just added exciting new series including Signal Lost. What happens when the most sensitive military intelligence in the world ends up on the wrong phone? White Smoke, taking you behind the scenes of all the interesting things that happen at the Vatican. And Pager Protocol, a thriller about getting exploding pagers into the hands of the bad guys. Plus, receive all your existing favorites like Palace Intrigue about the royal family, daily comedy news, 5 daily trivia questions, and 5 good news stories. Apple Podcast users, simply tap the banner in your Apple Podcasts app that says, Uninterrupted Listening, Spotify and other players. Visit caliroga.com/plus. If you missed all that, check the links in the show notes. It's just $4.99 a month for no ads. Listen on any device, on any player you love, completely hassle-free.
Tired of doom scrolling? Want news that won't make you want to live in a bunker? Check out 5 Good News Stories, where they find the silver lining in a world that's usually lined with something much less pleasant. The gang at 5 Good News Stories dig through the headlines to find 5 stories that prove humanity hasn't completely lost its mind. It's pretty much the opposite of this show. From scientific breakthroughs nobody's talking about to random acts of kindness that restore your faith in humanity, all delivered with the cutting wit you deserve. 5 Good News Stories, because sometimes the news doesn't have to suck. Subscribe to 5 Good News Stories wherever you get your podcasts. Scientists at a Dallas biotech firm just announced they've brought back dire wolves from extinction. That's right. Those terrifying canines from Game of Thrones that we all assumed were made-up fantasy creatures? Turns out they were real, and now they're back. Colossal Biosciences, a company valued at $10 billion, has created 3 dire wolves using DNA from a 13,000-year-old tooth and a 72,000-year-old skull. Because nothing says responsible science like recreating massive predators that nature decided to eliminate over 13 millennia ago. The company named 2 of the wolves Romulus and Remus after the mythical founders of Rome. Dire wolves weighed around 140 pounds when fully grown, about 25% larger than today's gray wolves. They had more muscular bodies, larger heads, and sharper teeth. Basically, they were designed by nature to star in their own horror movie. The company is keeping these wolves in a fenced-in nature preserve at a secret location in the United States. You know, because when you create prehistoric predators, the first rule is, don't tell anyone where you're keeping them. What could possibly go wrong? Colossal Biosciences isn't stopping with dire wolves. They're also working on bringing back the woolly mammoth, the dodo, and the Tasmanian tiger. I wonder if the tech works on 401ks. At this point, I'm just waiting for them to announce they're opening a theme park called Jurassic Park, but with different animals. So there you have it. 13,000 years after going extinct, dire wolves are back among us. And I, for one, welcome our new canine overlords. I just hope none of them develop a taste for podcast hosts. Portions of today's program were made with the help of extinct animals and a maniac tanking the stock market.